Good afternoon, everybody. I'm meteorologist Chris Higgins. Time for a video update. This is for Friday afternoon, February the 12th, heading to Mardi Gras weekend, and we are tracking a strong Alberta clipper on the way from Canada. Obviously, always still a lot of questions this far out, but it does look like a pretty healthy shot of some accumulating snow for a good part of the viewing area, heading into primarily late Saturday night and during the day on Sunday. To set the stage for you, take a look at the latest surface chart as of midday into early afternoon on Friday. Big storm system down the Gulf of Mexico producing snow all the way to the Gulf Coast this afternoon. Meanwhile, our little latest clipper, very weak system that brought the light snow and flurries on and off through the day today, is centered to our west. That will continue to dissipate as it drops away to the southeast. The storm of interest is currently up here in Canada. This is the developing storm system that will be dropping south. That's the surface reflection. The upper air reflection is still quite a bit further to the north. But that is the system there up north of the Dakotas that we'll be watching as it drops to the south to start spreading initially warm air advection snow into St. Louis, and then eventually we'll have to wait on the upper low. So it looks like a two-phase system or two-wave system for the bi-state area. Very impressive look from the water vapor imagery of that system dropping in out of Canada. You can see the very nice swirl associated with the upper level low up north of the Dakotas here, stretching out of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Also interesting to note the amount of moisture that has wrapped all the way around the upper low, which in general is centered over southeastern sections of Canada, but moisture is wrapped all the way out of the Atlantic up through the St. Lawrence Seaway, up off the charts, and back down to the south. This is Atlantic moisture that is going to get wrapped into this system on the northern edge of it and be pulled down to the south. So the system will have a little bit of extra juice, more than we might normally expect, I think, and that's something to be considered when we look at snowfall totals. Now, as I mentioned, this storm system does look like it's coming in two phases or two waves. The first one will be warm advection snow, and for that we have to watch carefully the surface low pressure and the 850 millibar low pressure track. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take kind of a consensus approach in terms of both the surface and the 850 low, but the average here seems to be a surface low track coming out of Kansas to just south of Kansas City, somewhere between Kansas City and Nevada, Missouri, down to the southeast from there towards Farmington, and then east from there to the confluence of the Wabash and the Ohio River there in extreme southwestern Indiana. That's the surface low track, and that would be late Saturday into Saturday night. At the same time, the 850 millibar low is forecast to form up over northwestern Missouri and then tracked right down the Missouri River through Montgomery County to a point right over St. Louis and then on to the east and southeast along and just north of Interstate 64 through southern Illinois into southern Indiana. In terms of the best chances for accumulating snow, you're going to look for areas to the left of the surface low track and right under the 850 millibar low track. And considering the dynamics in play in the low levels and the strong forcing of 30 to 40 mile per hour winds overshooting the low level warm front, I think very substantial snowfall in a short period of time is possible with this first wave. So here's the plot that I think that we're going to see with this as far as snowfall on the first wave. The heaviest band, again, between the surface low and the 850 millibar low, are roughly along and south of the Missouri River in Missouri and along and south of Interstate 64 in Illinois. And I think the most intense lift will be right on the leading edge, right in front of that 850 millibar low. And I think we could see some snowfall amounts in the average of 2 to 3 inches through that band in this first wave Saturday night into very early Sunday morning. A little further north from the 850 low, there's still going to be a snow band up here, but it will be somewhat lighter, generally looking at a 1 to 2 inch type snow north of the 850 millibar low through most of the rest of the Fox 2 News viewing area. But between, let's say, I-70 in Missouri and then extending south to a line from about Cuba over towards St. Genevieve, looks like a 2 to 3 inch snowfall Saturday night into early Sunday morning. That is with wave number 1. Now, you also may have seen here I did include some sleet. I'm concerned about one thing with this first wave, and that is that sleet potential, because the maximum lift associated with the warm air advection appears to be in a layer below in the lower levels below the level of minus 10 degrees Celsius. That means that we don't have it in the prime zone, and rather than getting necessarily snowflakes. We might get supercooled rain droplets freezing into ice pellets to mix in with the snow. If we didn't have that, I'd be more inclined to go 2 to 4 inches with this leading wave, but because there may be some sleet contamination mixed in, I'm going to go with 2 to 3 inches on this leading wave. That will set the stage for phase 2 or wave 2, and there may be a little bit of a lull between phase 1, wave 1, and wave 2 during the mid to late morning hours on Sunday, where we might just get some freezing drizzle and light flurries. But it won't last long, because hot on the heels of the warm air advection will be the upper level low. And I've drawn on the two key features to track with this. And again, these are, with the exception of the latest Canadian, which is somewhat further to the south, these are pretty much consensus type tracks that I'm finding with the overall pattern in the model runs, and this fits pretty well with recent trends. The X is the center of the vorticity maximum, and the L is where we have a closed off circulation at 500 millibars. Tracking those, the 500 millibar vort max tracks to our west and south through southern Missouri into southeastern Missouri near Poplar Bluff, and then tracking to the east through Paducah and into central sections of Kentucky. Typically, you want to look 1.5 to 2.5, or roughly 2 degrees to the left of that vorticity max track for the strongest or the heaviest snowfall. That would put the heaviest snowfall up along the Missouri River. At the same time, you also like, if you have a closed 500 millibar circulation, to track the center of that circulation, and typically the heaviest snow falls right under that circulation. So what we have here is an area between the vort max and the upper level low where we have a prime ground for accumulating snow with wave 2. How much? Here's where I think it's going to play out. Wave 2 with that upper low and vort max looks like the heaviest snow just a bit further than the QPF. The model QPF might have you indicate. That's why you can't always look at that. You have to look at the dynamics driving that. And the storm tracks would indicate a swath of accumulating snows from west central Missouri, again right down the Missouri River into the metro St. Louis area and spreading east from there. I like an additional 2 to 3 inches of accumulation on average during the afternoon and evening hours on Sunday through that core. Outside of it, a dusting to perhaps as much as an additional 2 inches north and south. So when you add this all up, the whole storm event, storm totals should look something like this. I'm going to go with a range of 3 to 6 inches, roughly along a line from Columbia down the Missouri River into the heart of the metro St. Louis area, and extending east along I-64 towards Mount Vernon across the Kaskaskia River. So east and a little south of due east out of St. Louis. I'd say roughly along and north of a line from, say, Cuba to about Farmington to just north of Chester in Illinois. We're looking at 3 to 6 inches. On the north side, I would say along and south of a line from about Middletown to Silex to Alton over to about Greenville, and then just north of Vandalia, along and south of there, or rather south of Vandalia, 3 to 6 inch swath. North and south of that band, a general 1 to 3 inch snowfall of the whole thing added together. That's the way it looks right now. Obviously, a shift north or south with the upper low could make those numbers go up. I was tempted to increase the 6 just a little bit on the high side, but this system is still a clipper system. It is still somewhat moisture starved. As a result, that's kind of holding me back from going any further. But a 3 to 6 inch snowfall, I think, is a solid bet in the zone I've got outlined there.